Hi everyone, welcome to week 4. I thought I would start out this week's announcement with actually a review of some of the questions from the exam. You will notice that everybody got an additional 4 points on their exam, and that was because there were 2 questions that people consistently got incorrect, and that was 9 and 10. Although there really was a correct answer, my philosophy is that if that many people get a question wrong, then there's probably either an issue with the way the text presented the information or the way I constructed the question. So each got an additional 4 points added on. So let's go over a few of them that I saw that a lot of people had issues with. So question 2 was full-time placement in the regular classroom. And the choices were, is the best placement for a child with learning disabilities? None of these is always the first placement that should be considered for a child according to IDEA, or is not appropriate for a child who needs supports and services. The correct answer is that it's always the first placement that it should be considered for a child according to IDEA. In the IDEA, it talks about children belong in the general ed environment with appropriate supports and services as long as they can make effective educational progress. If they can't, then the least restrictive environment and fate for that child may be a more restrictive placement. Question 4 was one of the ones that a lot of people got wrong, and that was in most states when a teacher initially experiences a child who is experiencing learning or behavior difficulties and they're not receiving special ed services, the first step recommended or mandated is, and most people answered having the child evaluated for special education eligibility. The correct answer is actually developing and implementing an intervention. So for most children, you would want to do what we called a multi-tiered system of support, or in some places called response to intervention. And that is designing some supports through general education to see if they respond, knowing that if you have really good tier 1, which is what everybody gets, then you will have, so about 80% of the kids will get whatever it is. Then through general ed, another 15% may need to have some additional small group supported instruction, and then another 5% may need some more intensive interventions, and that's all through general education. That being said, a child does not have to go through a multi-tiered system of support to get referred for special education for an evaluation to see if they're eligible. But as a classroom teacher, the first thing you're going to want to look for is to see what kind of interventions have been designed through special education. Let's see. Another one that many people got wrong that I fear was not presented as clearly as possible, perhaps in the book, was about Section 504. And many people answered, provides accommodations, answered is federally funded. And actually, Section 504 provides accommodations to students in the general education curriculum. So I hope that clarifies. Some people answered, a lot of people answered incorrectly and said it's a federally funded program, which is not true. And then the last one that I wanted to go over was one that I gave everybody additional points for, but it was only a true-false. A 504 plan is automatically developed if a student does not qualify for an IEP. And although almost everybody put true, with a few exceptions, the answer is actually false. A 504 plan is separate. It is an accommodation plan under the ADA, and if it is developed by a team of people that know a child well, if the child has or is known to have a disability and requires accommodations to access their education. The difference between a 504 plan, or one of the differences, is that it does not require specially designed instruction. But if a child does not qualify for an IEP, it could be because they may not have a disability, and then therefore they wouldn't qualify for a 504. So keep in mind that a 504 plan should never be considered, I've heard people talk about it as a consolation prize for not getting an IEP. If you have any other questions about any of the other exam questions, please don't hesitate to be in touch. Most of you did extremely well with the short answer questions, but there were some of you that struggled with the multiple choice or ran out of time for some of the short answer questions. My suggestion to you for the exam in week 5 is going to be you may want to start with the short answer questions and then time yourself and leave yourself time to answer the multiple choice at the end, because that might go more quickly and it'll leave you time to do the more time-consuming task of answering the short answers. Also, if you look at your syllabus, you'll note that if you miss an exam, that can't be made up. So make sure that you get your exam for week 5 done. I think only a couple of people missed the exam this time around. But just know that discussions and exams are not able to be made up. One other thing I want to mention, because I did notice a few people forgetting this, is that when you do your discussions, you're doing a great job of providing a citation in APA format. But remember, just like with any written assignment, discussions, written assignments, anytime you use a reference, you need to have at least one in-text citation to go with that reference. That lets the readers know which ideas came from which resource. So it's really important that you get used to that it's called attribution, that you attribute ideas to where they came from, whether they're paraphrased or whether they're a direct quote. Overall, our discussion was incredibly good last week. I really enjoyed reading all of your responses, and you guys had such wonderful responses to each other. They had lots of information, and they were really supportive of each other. And the videos have been fabulous. So thank you so much to those of you that took a risk and made a video. So I'm sorry, my recording is getting very long this week, so I'll be very, very brief. For week 4, we're going to be talking about autism, and we're going to be talking about individuals with emotional and behavioral disorders. So you should be reading your text and you should be watching the supplementary videos, and then we're going to have a discussion this week about proactive approaches to social and emotional behavior problems in the classroom. So I'm looking forward to having that discussion with you. And I look forward to hearing from all of you this week. Have a great week, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.